Be yourself, be positive. Just another mindset.
Hello, friends, and welcome to a new episode of the Just Another Mindset podcast. We need a paradigm shift if it comes to our economic and social systems. Let us drive this change together. The Just Another Mindset podcast shares inspiration and tangible techniques on how to create seismic shifts in an outdated system, collectively and for individuals alike. My name is Ismael, and each week I bring to you a relevant conversation, message, or theme that will not only entertain you, but help you to change towards a more meaningful and satisfying life. Get encouraged by listening to successful thought leaders, inspiring individuals, and impressive changemakers. Change from within will last and create positive results for all of us. Let us get inspired and embrace collective changes for the better. In today's episode, I speak to Raluca. Raluca is a creative strategist who walks on the edges of various domains, which she intertwines in innovative ways. Her borderless creativity, critical thinking, intuition, and strategic approach add value to visionary companies built on integrity, excellence, and a strong sense of responsibility for their communities. In this episode, we tell stories. Raluca has some interesting details about her career shifts to share, and you will learn about the role of purpose in making a contribution in her life. We discuss the need for change and how to rebuild yourself. We exchange our thoughts and exercises on how to feel more, and you will learn a lot about creativity. We discuss the role of play and what psychology can help us with. Finally, you will learn about the power of hope and curiosity. And with that, Raluca, a warm welcome to the Just Another Mindset podcast. And my first question for you today is, how do you feel and what is on your mind?
Oh, that's a deep dive right from the beginning. Well, I can start by saying that I feel gratitude. Gratitude for being invited in just another podcast, just another mindset, just another fill in the blanks. So yeah, there's gratitude, there's openness about our conversation and the uncertainty of it and how it will unravel. Yeah, it's a good day. Like I like to say, it's a good day to be alive and to enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that gratitude, openness, and uncertainty. And maybe, Raluca, before we talk about self-discovery and before we talk about storytelling and before we see where our conversation will take us, let's say, I think it would make a little bit of sense to give our audience also a little bit of context. And on your bio, it says that you are a marketing strategist, a writer, and a photographer. And I would like to add that you are involved in so many different exciting projects and initiatives. And I would like to use that as an entry point and ask you, where does your story start, or where are you dialing in from today? And is that even relevant?
It's a very nice question. And the first thing that popped into my mind was to say that my story didn't start yet, because it's starting every day. It's starting anew. And yes, you're right. I am involved in lots of things. I am what one might say a polymath, in the sense that I like to allow myself carried by curiosity and by surprise and by things being connected to one another in a very unexpected way. So yeah, from the mainstream point of view, my story started, my professional story at least, started, I think, 22 years ago when I finished my college in economics. And what I wanted was to work for the government. I was quite determined to change a system that I thought it was not really serving the social environment and our needs as people. But yeah, life got in the way, and I started to work for a private company. It was a small company, but very, very powerful in terms of potential and financial um, position on the market. And what it allowed me to do, it lasted for about 6 years, this experience. What brought me was a 360 degrees look and perspective in everything that entrepreneurship is. It was a family company. And although my work was strictly or mainly connected to the communication industry and sales and marketing, I also learned about administrative, about purchasing, accounting, and all sorts of things. So quite fast, it became clear to me that the private sector is maybe a bit stronger than the public one. So it was in the back of my mind, in the back side of my mind, that I wanted to do something and to influence something on a bigger level and to be part of this bigger scheme of things. But then I said, it's the little cell in the body that builds the organ. So let's just do something. It doesn't matter how small it is. Let's just do something well. So I focused on that. Yeah, this lasted for about 6 years, and then I switched to the corporate world, and I started to work in retail companies, the classical corporate environment, for another about 6 years. And my roles were related to loyalty programs, advertising, marketing directing in general terms. And after that, I started to freelance. Yeah, it was interesting. People start this for various reasons. My reason was that I just wanted out. I wanted out of the container where I have somebody that tells me what to do, and I need to comply, to conform, to follow somebody else's agenda, or well, not typically a person, but something outside of myself. So then my self-employed year started, and yeah, this adds up to the next six. So it's going to be a 666. And it's funny because I recently thought of that. Next year, I will be at the third six. Because why is it important? Because I might switch careers in this moment of my life. And I actually looked it up, and it's just a myth, a religious myth, that 666 has to do with, I don't know, some weird energy going on. It's actually really positive and spiritually loaded with archetypes of growth and change and development. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, so now I'm writing my story every day, basically. And it's really nice to see it develop. New chapters coming up.
Thank you very much for that in-depth elaboration. And it's very interesting with those 6-year cycles. And I've made a note, so I'm sure we're going to talk about that later on a little bit more again. And I would be interested, you talked about that at the very beginning of your career, you wanted to make a change, or you wanted to make a contribution and to somewhat change a system that's not really serving society or its citizens. Is that a red thread that is still going on? And if so, you talked about public and private sector. Is it different, somewhat attempts or different experiments that you are driving towards this change? Yeah, what comes to mind?
I think it's good that I didn't do it then, now that I think about it, because it was very close to my adolescence years when, we all rebel and we all think that nothing is going the right way and we need to change everything. And so I'm well aware that that was this force as well. But yes, to this day, I think that there are elements in our socio-economical, political environment now, everywhere in the world, that needs change. Having said that, I'm also aware that we humans made the world as it is today. So maybe we still need it to be as it is, because it's still serving some aspects of ourselves. So my attitude nowadays and my go-to life approach is more of okay, let's see what's going on. Let's try to understand why it's happening the way it's happening, and how can I shift it to the better. How can I bring myself into it and see whether if I bring myself into it, it will change naturally. It's like, it's not like a drop in the ocean, but rather you have a glass of water and a glass of, I don't know, ink. And you put a drop of ink in the glass of water. Inevitably, the glass of water changes. So it's that catalyzing force that I'm really looking for now. Not really changing everything, but rather understanding, integrating, and see whether if I bring myself in, it will make a difference. If not, it means, okay, we are just, I don't know, vibrating on the same frequency.
Yeah, but also realizing, accepting, or even appreciating that you are the change for yourself and that you yourself can change something and give this energy into the world and focus much rather on yourself than on everybody else, because the other people in this ecosystem, I suppose that's what I hear, can take that as a good example and change themselves or be influenced or be interested in what you do. And maybe we can use that as a little segue to talk about, self-discovery. And in our pre-chat, you described that at some point you began to start losing yourself in order to find yourself. And I would be very interested to hear, is there a particular moment or year or experience that you want to share with us? Maybe we start there and then we can see where this conversation can take us.
Yes, I remember saying that. And not sure about a specific moment. I can find several. But I think the pattern is, actually there are two directions. One is really forcing yourself onto people, onto context, just to make sure you belong somehow, to make sure you fit in. So that's the first vector. It's like, come on, people, have me here. Say I'm good. What do I need to make to please you? The second one is of a whole different dynamic, and it's about surrendering. It's about trusting. So it's really not, it's the opposite of forcing. It's allowing. I think in both cases, you risk losing parts of yourself and of your authenticity. And of course, you find after you cross the bridge, you find something at the end of it. In the first case, you find out that, let's say, you are able to force yourself, to force your ideas, to bring yourself into context of people that maybe are not good for you. You might get a sense of belonging, but then you realize that you made space for what everybody thinks, and you don't have space for yourself. So that's a one way of losing yourself. The other way, the other part is when you surrender. So you're not making space. You fill the space with you, with who you are, with what you believe in. You are centered into your own belief systems. And from my experience, what I saw at the end of the journey was that I have people coming in to my own journey, and these are the kind of people that resonate with me and with whom I resonate, and we build together something that we all strive for, we all need. We're not in competition, we're collaborating. So yeah, it's a very different outcome. And when I say that I lose myself in this process, it's more losing a sense of separation, which I thought was myself. So I'm not losing myself. Maybe I'm losing limitations, if it makes sense.
Constructs. Mm-hmm.
Constructs, yes. Prejudices, judgments. Yeah, I'm losing that, and I'm willing to lose them.
That's very interesting. I really like those two components. And just to clarify, when we talk about the first one, belonging and fitting in, and could your corporate career, or could any of the stages in your professional career, also in your personal journey, be examples of such that you try to fit in, that you try to be someone who you were not? Is that a fair and accurate understanding?
Yes, it is a fair understanding. It's quite a big topic for me, because it's true that I came out of these years quite damaged and looking for something I didn't even know what I was looking for. But I want to make very clear something. Not at all. I don't demonize corporations or the employment paradigm. Not at all. It helped me build character. It helped me build resilience. It helped me professionally. It gave me, knowledge and tools to deal with people. And yeah, I mean, it's a long list of pros. And here I'm also turning the lens on me, and I'm thinking that maybe I am not cut to be employed. So maybe that's why things didn't work out 100% in my benefit, because I'm the type of personality, and I checked that out. I'm really into this way of living where I wonder if you hear the sirens. Yeah, so I'm in this type of construct where I like to be my own authority, in a sense. I like to explore. I like to be the one who chooses which way to go next. So it's not the blame. I'm not to blame here my former employers. And actually, I'm not here to blame anybody. It's just about, either you're the right person for it or not. I have a lot of friends who would never go out on freelancing, and that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely, I fully do agree. I think it can have tremendous benefits if you're the character, or if you're the person who likes to be employed working for corporations or for family companies, for mid-sized companies, for anything. I think there are like many benefits. And I would still be interested when you talked about independence from the belonging, and you talked about surrender and trust, and we're going to go into the second one in a bit. But when you realize that you want or need to change something, you even talked about damaging yourself over time. How did you approach this change? Was it waking up one morning and say, okay, I'm going to do it? Or was it a slow process of analyzing what will happen if, calculating how much runway, as you want to call it, maybe have? Or like, how did you take this decision? Was it like really rapid, or was it really analytical, let's say?
Yeah, so as I said, people do it for various reasons. In my case, I was looking at people living this freelancing life and self-employing life, and I was inspired by them, but never fully committed to make the leap until one point when, yeah, and actually not ready to take the leap, and also really committed to being the entrepreneurial type of a person who I was. And that was really something I was inhabiting. So I'm here to work for this company and to change it from the inside, or something like that, and come up with new ideas, and have the back of a big team and a big corporation that can also provide financial support if my ideas are good, and so on, because it makes sense to do it. But then why I did it, I didn't do any calculations, because it hit me so hard after a few Sundays of feeling physically sick, physically ill, just at the thought that on Monday I will go to work. So I was just coming from a trip, from a holiday, and I remember it was Friday, and the only thing separating me from the office was the weekend. And throughout the weekend, I had the same physical, bodily sensations, which I didn't like. And I said, this is maybe a sign that I shouldn't do this anymore. So it was almost like I was in trance. I went to work and I opened my laptop, and instead of opening the inbox, I opened a Word document and I wrote my resignation, and that was it. No A plan, no B plan, no C plan, no nothing. As you can imagine, it was a bit of a throwing myself out the window, because I went home, and yeah, again, I was the type of person who worked really hard and dedicated a lot of hours a day for work. So when I found myself not having a schedule and not having, I don't know, calls to make, emails to answer, and so on, I felt that my life just ended. It was really, really hard in those moments. So yeah, it was a hard process of rebuilding my personality, to be honest, because the status I used to have was, well, it became who I was. I defined myself through that. So when I lost it, it felt like I lost my life and that I lost myself. that's why I'm saying that maybe it was me who was not really ready to inhabit that role of being employed and really understanding that there's more to life than job. So yeah, but it was, as people say when they look backwards, it was really a very good thing that happened, because it helped build a lot of muscles in terms of psychological stamina.
I can imagine. And I have a few follow-up question, and you partially answered the first one already, but do you ever question that decision or that very particular day?
A question?
Do you ever question, do you ever regret this
If I
particular day?
question, no, I don't. I don't regret. Well, I think sometimes that I think it would have been better to do it sooner. But then I said, if I were to do it sooner, it wouldn't look like this. And I like how it looks now. So it's good. No, I don't question it.
No, wonderful. Thank you so much. And you just talked about rebuilding and understanding yourself. And I would be interested to which extent, when you took the decision to take the leap, finally, I may say, to which extent did you first try to understand yourself, your core values, your desires, your needs, and you can fill in here. So how important was this self-reflection for you personally in order then to rebuild the story or the next chapter of Raluca?
Well, this came later, because at the beginning it was full survival mode and it was full crisis mode. But here I have to reference something that I read recently and I really liked it. It says, it's a quote that says, "I've had many crises in my life, and most of them didn't happen." So what I want to say through this is that sometimes we do build and help build our own crisis without really having a crisis, without really needing to. So maybe, it was my doing as well there. But at the beginning, I really wanted to understand what to do with my days. And just going out on the streets, I know maybe it sounds weird, but just going out on the streets in the middle of the day, which I hadn't done previously during the week for quite a long time, was, oh my God. So before going into that deep dive and rebuilding from a psychological level and values and purpose, I needed to do something right away. So my call, my pull, let's say, was to start doing something to feel that I'm useful for myself. Because otherwise I was in the paradigm of I'm losing time, so I'm losing money, and I don't have any because I don't have an A plan. So I started engineering this idea. Okay, who am I? Okay, that's not important now. Let's go with what can I do? So so then I articulated the brand, the name of the brand I have now, which really comes down to who I am on many levels, and that's Utopic Brain, in the sense that I am an abstract thinker. I like theorizing. I like breaking things into pieces and then rebuilding it in a whole different way. I like understanding. I like building scenarios. So working with the mind. And in time it changed, but that's another topic. What I first understood to be the utopic brain was a brain that can encompass any scenario possible. So a brain that is able to predict any surprise. Now, I think it's a brain that knows its limits and admits that is just a part of the whole equation. But that's, as I said, another topic. Going back to that, so I had this brand built out by myself. And then I said, I started to reach out to people and say, I started working on myself. This is what I do. I'd really like to work if you feel like I might contribute to your journey somehow. And maybe all my life I will remember my first client, because in that state of mind, you need to be trusted. You need to have somebody vet you for something, at least something. So yeah, that was my first drop of positivity in the whole thing. And after starting to work, I had the time at one point to really think of my values, purpose, meaning. Why am I doing this work? Why do I work in marketing? And that led me towards psychology. To this idea of non-duality. It's a long journey, but basically it really what really resonated with me was that it's not about, in the work I do, it's not about the win, it's not about the type of clients, it's about who I become in that work. So that was a turning point, because from that moment on, I can say I redefined the way I do the work, the way I take on clients. Yeah, because it had to serve me so that I can serve others.
Thank you very much for that. And yeah, we're gonna talk more about the utopic brain today, I'm sure, and also about psychology. But I want to go back to one particular comment that you made, and that was that sometimes maybe we are also building our own crisis. And what I hear, and maybe you have some thoughts on it, or confirm or say that is not the right understanding. I hear that maybe if you know that something is off, but you continue this particular career that you are not passionate about, or that you feel wrong about, or that you at least feel detached towards, that this rather builds your crisis. So the higher you go up, the further you will have to dive down again at some point. Is that something that, you would say is a fair statement?
Yeah, I absolutely believe in this. And it's definitely on you, whether you're conscious of it or not. And also, even you're aware of it and you know it's not good for you, I believe that if you're still doing it, it's because if you weigh the pros and cons, the pros are bigger to some extent. So you have to deal with the cons as well. You have to own them.
Absolutely. And another note that I made, you said that you are feeling that you try to find something, that you're feeling you are doing something, or that you are doing something well. And I would be very interested in this level or this area of feeling. How do you experience feeling, in a good or in a bad way? Meaning, if you did a job and you talked about your Sundays, that you didn't want to go to work and that you felt bad, was that actual physical sensations on the non so nice side on the Sundays, and then feeling doing something well? How did that feel, and how did you listen to your feelings? Because I suppose many people, including myself at certain times in my life, become very reluctant or are not really able to feel such emotions or such feelings anymore. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I will start by saying that I'm now studying in a program where we have to feel 24/7. It's a very in-depth psychological program. So to answer your question, I don't think there's a feeling I'm consciously afraid to feel right now. And yeah, of course, we all want to feel happiness and joy and energy and power and so on. And when it comes to despair, we want to deflect it with anything. But I see all emotions today as symptoms of something. So whenever, for instance, you have to feel fear because your body tells it, or your mind or anything in you tells you that you are afraid of something, instead of stepping out of it and trying to do something else, maybe stay a second there or two and ask yourself, why are you afraid of that? What does it take of you or bring you that makes you feel so threatened somehow? So this is how I deal with emotions. If I don't like them, and of course, I don't want to feel afraid, but if I have to, then maybe I can, like I'm having a conversation. I might take my fear to dinner or take my despair to lunch and see what's up there. And regarding my clients and my work, yes, I do relate to how I feel about the work. And well, it's not all positive. It's not all sunshines, of course. And yeah, I'm inquiring it, but I'm also careful not to be obsessed with, okay, what does it mean? I mean, not everything has to have a very, very deep meaning. Sometimes you just don't like a thing that you've been told, and that's fine. You just move on. So I'm trying not to attach myself too much to, I don't know, to expectations, or to, oh my God, what did my client do? Or does he like my work? Because there is, by the way, this situation when I like very much what I'm doing, but the clients want something different. And I'm talking about something creative, let's say a logo. And then I have to stay with, okay, so you want this, I'm going to build you what you want. I'm really happy that you're satisfied with the result, but I'm not. So do I end the conversation here and it's like, my client has the go, or I'm going back to that forcing thing, but maybe it's better to put the red, or I don't know, a blue or something, use another font. And I'm just letting it be. If it's something strategic, I'm bringing it on the table and I'm saying, maybe you should think that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 might be risky. But if they choose to do it anyway, or if they choose to own what they like, I'm okay with it. Now, I wasn't before, but I'm learning to be okay with it, and that brings me to more and more, say, positive emotions. There are no positive or negative, but emotions that are easier to receive and to feel. Because it's not about me. I'm doing the work. I'm, let's say, a channel that serves. And I'm serving myself in the process, of course. But at the end, I'm serving the client. And if they want to have salmon pink, we're going to have salmon pink, if it speaks to them. And this brings me to another thing. And and to the reinterpretation that I gave myself to the utopic brain, which doesn't exist, of course, but still. In this work with clients, at some point I realized that I can't, that I seem not to be able to get to them. I had the marketing skills, I had the theories, I had the framework, I had everything, but I couldn't get to the person. And that's when I said that maybe I should go in a deeper dive. And that's when I started the psychology journey. Because I realized that I'm not talking to, and I think I mentioned that previously in our talk, I'm not talking to brands, I'm not talking to, I don't know, abstract constructs, I'm talking to people. And if I talk to people, I need to leave the marketing tools and these constructs behind and just talk to the person. And to talk to the person, I needed other tools. And even though I see myself as naturally empathic, it was not enough. So yeah, well, if they need, coming back to the pink salmon, if they want pink salmon, that says something about them. And it's okay, because if they feel safe, if they feel that that color or that logo or whatever talks to them, it's about their personality. And I shouldn't even try to change their personality.
And to summarize that, I think it has to do a lot with acceptance and inviting not so pleasant emotions and not your preferred ways of coloring, in this example, into your life, right? So accepting that there are different emotions and not suppressing certain type of emotions is one thing. And the other one is really also accepting other people the way they are, or the desires, the needs, the wants they have. And I suppose that is true in a professional level and also on a personal level. And I have quite a few follow-up questions, but before we maybe look into the psychology development, let's just say, why is storytelling and marketing so important and so strong for yourself?
Well, I didn't start in marketing as such. It just, my curiosity, as I said, whom I listened to very carefully, drove me there. I had some natural creativity going on since I was a child. And when I started to work, I could not bring that in. No, I could not bring that in. So it was my bosses, to be honest, that highlighted me. You know, maybe you would be more suited here in these roles. So not really in sales, or which I don't like very much anyway. I'm good with frameworks and schemes and timetables and so on, and project management. But yeah, they hit a nerve there, and I was really happy that somebody saw that in me, and there were few people that did. For instance, in my biggest role, I mean, the biggest role in the employment paradigm was as a marketing director. And what drove me there was actually a job that I was very reluctant to, and that's a board assistant, which felt demeaning at the beginning. I felt, oh, how can I go there? It would be, no, not demeaning, it's not the right word, but I felt like I was going down the ladder. But it was a wonderful experience, yes, because it was grassrooted, in the sense that I was exactly at the point where decisions are made in retail, in big retailers. So maybe that's the best way to understand the industry. So while doing that role for about a year, I went beyond the what I had to do as a job, and I started to send out suggestions to the marketing director from that time. And I had to visit, for instance, stores throughout the country, and I made notes and I send full reports on what I saw and why I saw them, and maybe we should do this, or maybe we should, change this. So they invited me to come in the department, and this was maybe the biggest ascension that I encountered. So it's a bit of me going where my curiosity leads me, and also the others who see me. So it's a bit of both. And I'm really, really grateful to the people that saw that and invited me to keep this creation alive, because it's a very vulnerable place to be in, to be creative, because it's whenever you come with a new idea or a new design or whatever, you are at the scrutiny of everybody, and they just say, oh, this is bad, this is even worse than before, they can say anything, and of course they can also say that it's good. But it's that vulnerable initial place of creation, which is hard to be in if you don't have the holding of other people.
You need trust for that, right? For yourself and also for your, let's just call them team members for the sake of ease. But I think trust, and if you have such a working environment, professional environment, but also personal environment where you can trust and where you can open up and where you can actually present your ideas, I think this is very wonderful to have. And maybe we can use that and talk a little bit about creativity and the meaning of such in your life. And you can answer that on a professional level, of course, but maybe also on a personal level. So what role does creativity play for you?
I think it's number 1 or 2 on my list of things I have to do every day, or at least I allow every day. I daydream a lot. Well, not a lot, because I don't have that much time, but still I like to daydream and just, look out the window and see what pops up in the back of my mind based on the meetings I have with clients and discussions and so on. And that's creative. Also, I do targeted creation, in the sense that I have obviously a brief that I have to deal with. And based on, the marketing canvas and the business, you have clients to serve, you have insights, market insights, you have research, you have, what I like to say is this triangle of the weight of history, in the sense that this is what happened yesterday. You have the push of the present, what needs to happen now, and you also have the pull of the future. Where do you see yourself, or where do you see your brand, or how you envision your role in the market, and so on. So between these 3 pillars, creativity happens. And it's it's both targeted, it's both structured and free style.
Unstructured and open. No, that's
Yes.
I really like the idea of this triangle. And Raluca, if somebody would say, I'm not creative, or I'm not able to create myself space for creativity, what is it that you do with them, either as clients or as friends or as individuals? What would you tell them?
I think I would tell them to close their eyes and tell me how do they see an hour of their life best spent. What I used to do was to say that, yes, you are creative. But I understood later that it was a denial of their experience and it never worked well. So what I'm trying to do now is either to go with their story, because this is what I actually do with my clients. I go in their story so I can best tell it to the people that matter to them. So I go in there, I'm not changing and editing anything. Or I'm facilitating, I'm guiding, I don't know, supporting them into finding new places that they can go to and maybe they didn't explore.
Enhancing their creativity like that. I very much like that. And Raluca, if I would ask you what role or what impact has play in your life? I suppose it's somewhat related to creativity, but how often do you play and how do you play, if you do?
So that was a sigh. I don't have a history of much play. I'm learning how to play. I have to say I'm still at the I'm still in a place where I schedule playing because it doesn't come natural, and I have to fix that. That's something fixable. Because whenever I allow myself to be there, it's inevitable that I get tons of ideas about anything. So how do I play? I play with using my non-dominant hand to write, draw, and I don't know, make sketches. That's the left. I also make fun of myself, so I'm trying to see how far can I go with that's really making fun and having fun rather than playing, but I consider it playing. To what extent I can laugh of my seriousness, but that's because it's something that's really representative for me and I took it to extremes. I also play with photography a lot. And by this, I mean taking photography, making collages of images, trying to build things out of them. Working with a methodology that I learned, which uses phototherapy, meaning that, so you have decks of cards with photography and words, and you use it to facilitate ideas, breakthroughs, surprises. For instance, I can ask myself, what is something that would serve me today? And then, I'm just trying to concentrate on that idea. And then I pull a card from a deck and I get, I don't know, trust, say. And I have an image of trust and the word, and I'm playing with that. I also play with, like really playing with board games. Yeah, I'm playing cards with friends. But I do need, or I do want to play more, that's for sure.
So you actively create spaces where you
Yes.
are allowed to play or where you actually engage and play with yourself and with others. I very much like that. Thank you very much for the elaboration. And you already hinted at phototherapy therapy, and you're also a Gestalt therapist. And maybe we can use that as a segue to talk about the component of psychology and therapeutic modalities in your life and why they became so important. So maybe you want to talk to us a little bit. When did you understand, or when did you choose to want to learn more about psychology and the human?
Yeah, first off, I wanted to say regarding the Gestalt. So I did a course about it. I'm not practicing it. I'm just aware of what it means. I know how to use it. But yeah, it was more of a training in it. Um, so, I unofficially was interested in psychology for quite a long time. I remember being in high school. We had some optionals in our curricula. We had philosophy, economics, and psychology. And I did them all with the intention to go further with psychology. But, 20 something years ago, actually even more, it was not, well, at least in my part of the world, it was not really a commonality, let's say, to make a career out of psychology. So I chose the economy, and I consider that would give me a better, well, preparation for life, let's say. But I stayed with psychology in the sense that I always wanted to understand, in the first part of my life, to understand why other people behave so wrong, and why they are so, I don't know, not as they should be. And in the second part of my life, to understand, well, actually just the last few years, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just, bring myself in a wholesome way to the world? So this journey meant reading books, watching videos, trying to go in various domains of psychology. So I also went into the philosophy side, and I went deep enough to know that what resonates with me is the Stoicism very much. So I'm trying to live under those teachings, let's say. So I wanted to learn more about transgenerational traumas at some point. I wanted to know more of Freud's work on psychoanalysis. I wanted to know more about the Adlerian psychology, which speaks of the individual as part of a society and treats it as a whole being. So I went unofficially into all these, disciplines, because they can be called disciplines in themselves. I combine them with the business industry and the business learnings from the job, and also from my entrepreneurial life when I started it. And at one point, I realized that I'm all over the place with everything. I didn't really know how to structure it all. I am also the type of person that goes in the rabbit hole. So when I'm starting something, I just go and go and go, and I forget where I started sometimes. So in order to bring some discipline to this, and to do it in a more structured way and effective for myself, I started a program, and what led me to it was freestyle coaching that I did with a friend, and coming across the notion of non-duality, which is, in a nutshell, it says that we are basically one. We are all one. We humans and plants and tables and matter and everything, we are all one, coming from the same source, be it God for some, be it consciousness for others, being whatever, Mother Nature for others. So it's not really about the name, it's about how you see yourself in this world. So this non-duality drove me, along with this friend with whom I started this journey, into understanding more about psychosynthesis, which is a type of psychology that deals with the whole being, from the body to the mind to the feelings to the spiritual realm and transpersonal. So it's really a synthesis of all that we are, coming in one place, integrating everything, and then showing up for ourselves and to the others from a place of centeredness and strength and alignment. So that's where I'm now with the studies. I'm in year 2, just ready to take on clients. I have to take clients,
And is this also where the next 6-year cycle will take you?
Yeah, exactly. So in theory, next year I will be finishing this program, or at least the biggest part of it. And maybe I will start this new journey, this new professional journey, where I would be counseling and coaching based on this specific way of seeing life through the synthetic lens. But we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that I'm going to drop marketing, because I see it as very close to my heart. So I believe I will combine the two somehow. I found a way to work with the two. I'm trying to develop a method. I'm now calling it markendipity. It's a combination of marketing and serendipity, because I do believe that marketing lacks and would really benefit of a bit of letting go of KPIs and just allowing that freshness of surprise. And I believe that serendipity can do it. It's not, it's really important to understand what serendipity really is, because it's not chasing goose chasing, or just imagining for the sake of imagining. It's really a method to build something, because it does have this unexpected element of surprise. Very important, it has agency. So you bring your will into it. And at the end of it, it does build value. You take value out of all these things. And of course, you can bring all of this into marketing. I'm just tiptoeing this idea that came some while ago.
No, and I think that's a very good approach, and without putting words into your mouth, but I guess this is also integrating your experience and integrating all the skills and the expertise that you have already gained, and taking that to the next 6-year cycle, or taking that to the next step, or to the next level, whatever we want to call that. And I have a few questions, Raluca, that I ask each and every of my podcast guests. But before we go there, is there any particular topic that you deem we didn't shine enough light on today, or that you would like to discuss before we finish up with the final questions?
Maybe we can bring in the idea of hope, which I think it's interesting. I know you mentioned it at one point in our previous talks, and I think it's important because, well, we look around and it's easier to lose it, or at least to forget that there is positive going on in the world, regardless of the horrors. So yeah, maybe a pinch of hope in this talk, and around mentioning that maybe I'm just repeating maybe because it's not something that applies to everyone. So maybe we can, if we feel that there is no hope, ask ourselves, what do we have when we feel that maybe we have nothing? So really subtract everything that we can subtract and see what we are left with. And it's very different, and it's very personal. It's different for everybody, but I'm guessing that is the starting point of building hope and trust again. It's maybe a rebuilding of trust when you have to find hope in your life.
No, I very much like that approach, and I think hope and trust are very closely interlinked. And it's interesting because the first of my final three questions is what makes you hopeful? And yeah, maybe you can answer that for us.
Okay. I can actually go back to not further than yesterday. No, the day before, 2 days before, when everything seemed to just go sideways. And it was a really important day for me. Nothing turned out the way I expected. And I was really sad and disappointed. And then I was, But the muscle that I'm trying to build, and maybe it really answers your question, is this too shall pass. And when I go into that, even though it might sound a bit naive or simplistic, it's really confidence building on one level, and also resilience building, because it's just about, just hang in there. It will go. And not by itself, of course. We're not just sitting back waiting for life to happen. But sometimes, even though we try to bring everything in and, as I said, force things, and it's just not happening. So maybe we can just take a break, take a breath, 2 breaths, and think that this too shall pass, just like the sun rises every morning. So this is what makes me just to finish off the thought, I wanted to say that this is the place I go when I want to become hopeful again, and when I seem to not have hope. And in more general terms, what gives me hope is thinking of the people that supported me along the way, and the fact that they appeared when I least expected, and having the trust that it will happen again.
Community, relationships, and I hear a whole bunch of stoicism in there. Thank you so much for sharing that. And talking about people and support actually links perfectly again to the second of my final three questions, and that is, who are your mentors, or whom do you personally look up to?
That was my one of my biggest existential sadness, if I can put it like that, because I don't think I had a mentor. I don't think I ever had a mentor like that person that I go to or look up to from A to Z. I didn't have it, but I did have personalities or people around me who inspired me, of course. So it was more of a person that a mentor. It was more of a mentor that I built for myself out of various people. People meaning one friend, only one friend. Many philosophers. Some of my former team workers and bosses. One boss, actually, one boss. And it's hard to name it. I mean, just now making this list seems very unfair to many other people, even to the other friends. I said one friend, it feels unfair to the other friends because I am inspired by things that they do. And maybe I'm less inspired by other things, but it's not really important. It's important to be inspired even in what not to do sometimes, I think. So maybe I will go back to the answer and say what really is important for me now in terms of mentorship is to just browse and then bring it through the lens of my own reality and see what's left. And that's the learning. I take a lot from the world, and there are moments when I really want to make sure that I give back at least as much. So maybe to your question, I have a lot of mentors of various sizes, of various races, of various genders. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so it's everywhere, the mentorship. I just redefine my answer.
And I think that is a very important and very relevant point you're making here. And yes, one may have 3 or 5 people who are super close, and it's this list of individuals. But if I may comment on that, it can also be characteristics or traits or energies, and good or bad, if there even is such thing, behavior or examples. So I think if we talk about this interconnectivity, we are constantly learning from one another. And if we talk about ecosystems, it might actually not only be humans, but so much more. So your mentor could be the tree that's in front of your house because you associate it with something. And I think that's a very important distinction you are making, that a mentor does not have to be this person that you talk to every other week or every Wednesday from 5 to 7. It can be so much more. And the other component that I really liked is, actually there are two. One is, you said you never really had a mentor, and in the end you said you have so many mentors. So opening your eyes
Speaking of
and saying,
mindsets, speaking
exactly,
of mindset, yeah.
Exactly. So rethinking, in a way, your own understandings, and also being able to approach and accept different mentorship concepts, I just call it, or ways of mentorship. So I very much appreciate that very honest answer, Raluca. And
I would add
thank you so much.
something, if I may.
Of course.
Another component. I do believe that in the end, mentorship and apprenticeship and the learning curve comes from being mirrored in a way or another. But what's important is, I think, for myself at least, I think that that mirror has to have depth. So you don't limit yourself to the surfaces. So that's where the really understanding and learning takes place, where you go a few layers further.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that addition. I think that makes very perfect sense. And Raluca, that leads me to the last and final question for today's podcast episode anyways. And it's a rather hypothetical question, and I call it the 3 truths. And I would like you to imagine that you are traveling all by yourself in space, actually for quite some time, for a couple of months or even a couple of years. And after all that solo travel, you encounter a human-like species, and they can only process 3 facts or 3 truths about humanity before they decide whether or not they want to get to know us. What is it that you tell them?
Wow. It's a tough one, because I would have said imagination, but turns out animals are imaginative and creative. So something specific. Okay, so I would say compassion. The ability to work very hard in the ability to work very good in big groups. So being able to relate, but also to sustain massive shifts in systems, building systems and also shifting them. I have only one left.
But you can cheat a little bit and combine 2 in your answer if you want.
Yeah, I was thinking of gratitude now, because I think it's a big value that we hold. And maybe it's even specific to people. I don't know. Just being thankful. And I can't help think of the idea of family, of building intimacy and supportive environments, which helps everybody grow.
Thank you.
I think that would be my answer.
Thank you so much. And linking to that, I'm very, very grateful for all your insights, for your experience, and for the stories that you were sharing with us and the Just Another Mindset podcast. And Raluca, if there is anything that comes to mind, a final message, a final word for our audience, it's all yours.
Maybe I can share a challenging thought that I came across recently, and I'm trying to live it. And that thought is like this. In life, we need to learn how to be monsters and then learn how to control it and how to tame it. And I built my life very differently from that. Like, you have to be kind, you have to be, all giving and so on. But actually, if I think at this almost truism, it really makes sense, because being this monster, and again, we shouldn't bring our prejudices into it. It really talks about going for what you need, building boundaries, being resilient, being strong, going out there, but controlling it in the sense of not letting it dominate you. You are the one that uses this power. So yeah, this is the thought I'm struggling with right now, and maybe it will speak to your audience as well.
Thank you so much for sharing it. And yeah, light and shadow work and integrating the shadow, the monster. And with that, thank you so much for being a guest on the Just Another Mindset podcast. And
thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
if you enjoy this podcast and learn from it, please feel free to share this episode with a friend or two, and make sure to subscribe to the Just Another Mindset podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please use the next 10 seconds to give the Just Another Mindset podcast a rating, and know that you will help me to create more meaningful content like this, and also that it will help other people to find this content and get inspired as well. If there is any future topic or guest that you would like to hear more about on the Just Another Mindset podcast, please let me know by leaving a comment on YouTube or sending a mail directly to contact@ismaelwondergarten.com. And if nobody told you lately, be reminded that you are worthy, you matter, and you can achieve anything.
Be yourself. Positive. Just another mindset.